What's up, guys? Welcome into MLB DFS Live for Wednesday, June 9th. I'm your host, Ben Hosser, joined by Justin Bales. We got a new stream design here. I forgot to add the odds in because I'm an idiot. So the next time that you guys watch us, we will have the odds of the games here posted. But I forgot to do that before we got on here. This is a weird slate, Bales. You and I were just kind of talking about it. Um, I don't know. I feel like last night super top heavy, not even top heavy, just super stacked at the pitching
Mhm.
position. And tonight that's not the case. We have Garrett Cole and Lance Lynn as like over 10K pitchers, but outside of those two, there's a lot to be desired at the pitcher position tonight. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting slate overall. So we'll kind of jump in. If you guys have any questions, you can post them in the chat. Bales has the chat pulled up, so we will answer the questions. I do want to mention you can head over to dfskarma.com and check out all of our free content. Bales has been on fire with his core plays. I've been really working on my process the last week. Had a little bit of a cold stretch there, but I felt really good coming into the weekend. Had a nice day on Sunday, and then last night I had a really good night
Killed
as
it.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm feeling pretty good. dfskarma.com/MLB if you're interested in a package. But let's jump right in here. So, pitcher Garrett Cole, I mean, he's ceiling priced on DraftKings over 11K. I'm a big believer that he's going to take a step back now that they're actually cracking down on the whole foreign substances. Not to say that he's going to be a bad pitcher now, but I think he's going to go from being one of the top three pitchers in baseball to just being like a good pitcher or a pretty good pitcher. I don't think he's going to be worth this price tag, though, is my way of saying this. So I think on a normal slate, like if he was on yesterday's slate, I probably wouldn't be super interested in playing him over guys like Glasnow or Bieber. But I think on this specific slate, even at that high price tag, there's no one really to pivot to. And I still think he's going to be good for, 7, 8 strikeouts. I just think it's going to be harder for him to find those 12 or 13 strikeout games. But I think on this specific slate, he is still the top option, even though I don't think he is that great of a play tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not gonna kill my lineup or anything to get him in. I think in cash, it's probably gonna be pretty easy to fit him in, and more or less everyone's gonna be playing him. I think in tournaments, you're not going to pivot off of him because there's literally no one to pivot to. Like the closest is 800 away at Lance Lynn. But I don't think that you need to play Garrett Cole in tournaments. I do think he's a fine play. I don't really think that he's going to all of a sudden become a bad pitcher. I still believe he probably ends up being, one of the top arms in the entire league, even with him cracking down on everything. But, I feel like it puts some distance between Garrett Cole and Jacob DeGrom, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a big debate about like whether or not people think DeGrom was using. I don't really think he was using it. I think guys like DeGrom, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, those guys were really good before like this all started happening the last couple seasons. Whereas like if you look at Cole, Cole was like a good pitcher in Pittsburgh and then went to Houston, started using the substances and jumped from a good pitcher to arguably the best strikeout pitcher in baseball. So I think someone like that, someone like Trevor Bauer that we know is using it because he literally has said, I mean, if they're not gonna get people in trouble, I'm just gonna use it. So I think you can clearly look at people like that, and then
Smart man.
and then you look at guys like Degrom, Max Scherzer. Like I said, those guys were really good before. So I don't, I do believe Degrom probably wasn't, using it as heavily as others. Um, yeah. So outside of those top two, who are you who are you interested in here, Bells? I think we were talking about it. I think Austin Gomber against Miami on DraftKings specifically. He's 6K there. He's over 9K on FanDuel, only 6K on DraftKings. I think he's going to be really chalky on DK. But
Yeah, it's tough. Like you're probably in cash. You're just going Garrett Cole, Austin Gomber because it's so easy. But in tournaments, you're probably jumping off of that because why play chalk Garrett Cole if he's going to take a step back? And why really ever play chalk Austin Gomber? Because it's Austin Gomber. Like, don't get me wrong, from the beginning of the season, I've kind of been talking up Gomber a little bit. I do think he's a good pitcher. I do think he's, taking the steps forward that he needs to. But at this point, at this point in his career, you're not really going to play him as chalk. So I think there's other options. I think my favorite one is probably Casey Mize. He's only 6,800. They've kind of been letting him throw a little bit more. I think he's got up over 90 pitches in like multiple of his last few games. Before he was throwing like high 80s, low 80s. I think he's in a really good spot. I absolutely love attacking Seattle. Their offense is atrocious. They get a good umpire tonight as well. And then if I'm moving off of Garrett Cole, I think like Lance Lynn is fine. If you want to play like Adam Wainwright, whatever, I don't really have too many issues with it. I would probably go Zach Eflin. He gets a matchup against Atlanta in a hitter-friendly stadium, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, there's a lot of strikeouts to be had in the Atlanta offense, and Eflin's really good at home. So I don't really discount him the way that I discount certain pitchers if they play in a stadium like Philadelphia, just because he's used to it and, he just pitches really well there. So I think in terms of tournaments, my two favorite pivots are probably going to end up being Zach Eflin and Casey Mize.
Yeah, I think you could talk me into Mize for sure. This is a tough slate for me personally because I don't see anyone that I want to. I don't have any conviction on any of these pitchers, right? I mean, you have Cole. If you want to play Lynn, that's fine, whatever. I don't have conviction on literally any of these other guys. Like, I think Gomer makes sense on DraftKings at his price. Like, he's probably like 2,000 too cheap, and he gets the Marlins, so that's perfectly fine, even though he's going to be high owned. I mean, I don't like any like Corbin is probably going to project pretty well because the Rays have really struggled with left-handed pitching, but Corbin hasn't looked like himself to me, right, at all this season. So I don't really want to use him. I don't think that's a good play. Everyone else is too expensive on DraftKings. I think McClanahan, I'm a fan of him. You could talk me into him. National struck out a ton against Glasnow last night. The only knock on McClanahan is they just don't let him throw long, right? Like, he's probably only go 4 or 5 innings due to his pitch count. So
and
that's
you're paying up for him.
Yeah. So that's like a tough play to make in any sort of like single entry or something. I think that's more of like a tournament shot. Other than that, that's it. So this is going to be a weird slate for me. Like, I hate playing the super chalk pitching pair, but I'm probably just going to be doing it. And maybe I can get some leverage with my bats because I don't feel good enough about any of these pitchers to make the pivot. But someone like Mize or Eflin, like you noted, you could talk me into those guys. Mize for sure because Seattle's terrible. And I'm a believer that eventually Mize will probably be good. So I'm fine with that. The other guy we could talk about is Braxton Garrett. He's 4K on DraftKings. I am interested in him. He's a former, like you said, top pick. He was a good prospect. Struggled in the minors, but he's had a really injury-filled career. But he's been at AAA starting, so he is stretched out. I would assume he goes probably 5 innings here. 4,000. 5 innings is completely fine. Obviously, we like to target the Rockies on the road. We used Pablo Lopez against them last night, but obviously Pablo Lopez is a really good pitcher. But they're a bad road team, and I think if he goes 5 innings for 4K, he's projecting in the mid-teens. I think this is a good play. I think you can use him in all formats. So my pitching pool literally is Cole, Gomer, and Garrett, and then you could maybe talk me into one of those mid-range guys in tournaments, but I don't know. I hate this position today.
Yeah, it's really, really rough. Not a whole lot I like, and even the things that I do like that I'm gonna have to end up doing, even that I really don't like that much.
Yeah, and we were talking about it before we started the stream here. The difference between playing Gomer and Garrett, this is one reason why I'll probably just play the Chalk Cole Gomer pairing. The difference is only 2,000 on DraftKings. That's one batter, right? So in my example, I was taking in my lineup, I was taking Mookie Betts and moving him down to Manny Margot. I'm fine doing that to get up to Gomer, I think. Margot, we played him last night. I actually think he's a good play tonight too. But it doesn't even have to be that specific example. But you're just going from a 5K hitter down to a 3K hitter at one position, which I don't think is that big of a deal. So If you guys have questions on any other pitchers, ask, but I think it's a pretty straightforward slate at that position. We're going to go, since we have the new ticker on the side here that goes by positions, we'll go through each of the positions and then we'll wrap up and talk about some stacks at the end. So we will move on to catcher here. Bales, I'll let you start. There's some good catcher plays. We ran kind of pure last night, used Max Stassi. He hit a home run. Always love when you get. I finally got the cheap catcher that hits a home run. Normally, I miss that, or I play someone wrong, and it's the other cheap guy that hits a home run. But we got it right last night. So where are you looking at catcher tonight?
Yeah, I actually feel like there's a lot of reasonable options, realistically. I think JT Realmuto is probably the guy that sticks out the most, just because I do like him in the matchup at home. If you're spending up, I have no problems whatsoever if you go to James McCann, who's just a little bit more expensive. It's just that I don't really love him against right-handed pitching, especially when you're paying that type of a premium. If you want to drop down a little bit, Stevenson, 3,500. He's hitting fourth for Cincinnati. I have no problems whatsoever with that. And then, I mean, you could just take, if like Jake Rogers is in the lineup at 2,100, I don't have any issues if you want to pump with someone like that. But I mean, I do believe there are other options. Omar Narvaez is 4K. I think that he's fine. If you want to use like Will Smith, I don't really like paying 4,700 for a guy hitting seventh, but I do think that it's at least relatively reasonable. Or realistically, you can always use the White Sox guys. Yes, Monty Grandal at 45 isn't too bad at all. I don't know. That's a lot of catcher options. I feel like Real Muto is the top option. You can drop down to like Stevenson or someone like Jake Rogers, assuming he's starting.
Yeah, I think you highlighted it pretty well. My top spend ups would be Real Muto and Grandal. Grandal is someone I like to use against right-handed pitching. Manoah, I'm a fan of, but I do think he is susceptible, especially early on in his career here. We saw him got beat around a little bit in that last start, and Grandal's looked really good the last couple weeks, and I like him against righties more than lefties. My top overall play would be Narvaez. You mentioned him. Really like him tonight, hitting fifth at 4K. And then there's a couple cheaper guys that you could use. Stevenson, like you said, 3,500 against a lefty. Don't mind that. I feel like closer to lock when we get some more lineups out, we normally get a couple of those low 2K guys that you could consider if you really need it. But I don't think you need to go that low today because you're only spending up on maybe one pitcher. So that about does it there. First base is loaded for me today. I think like the top projection, probably highest owned guy is going to be Pete Alonso, right? Homer twice last night, gets Matt Harvey tonight. The Mets are going to be a popular stack. I have no problems with that, but he's really expensive, 5,800. I prefer lefties against Harvey, although he easily could get a good matchup out of the bullpen. But I do think he's probably the top play there. And then you have Dom Smith as well, above 5K for the same team. I'm going to kick to you here because I have one play that I really like, and I'm going to be locking him into my lineup. He's a little bit cheaper, so I'm going to head to you before I give my favorite play out.
This is kind of crazy because there's so many good options. I think you're right with both the Mets guys. Stevenson, we already talked about. He's first base eligible in DraftKings. You can use him. Ohtani, I mean, he's almost 6K, but you don't ever have to really say no. If you want to go down a little bit cheaper for me, Dan Vogelbach's 3,500 obviously gets the matchup in Cincinnati. Danny Santana, 3,200 gets the matchup against the home run prone Jake Odorizzi. I mean, Rhys Hoskins, I really like at 4,700. Jared Walsh, I have no problems whatsoever, assuming he's back up in the lineup. I would assume he hits about fourth. I mean, there's just so many good options. And then it's shocking to me that I'm saying it, but at 3,100 in the matchup, Albert Pujols, I feel like is a very solid play tonight.
Yeah, you covered it again really well. I think the top cheap play is probably Santana, and I don't know. You could talk me into Pujols. I don't mind that for like a punt, but again, I don't think you need to drop that low unless you're going to stack the Dodgers. My favorite plays in the mid-tier, Jared Walsh. You mentioned him. Feel really good about him tonight. I've become a really big Jared Walsh fan. Over the last 14 days, he's making hard contact above 50%, and he absolutely crushes sinkers, which Keller throws over 30% of the time to lefties. And if you look at Keller's overall pitch mix, it's pretty evenly split between fastball, sinker, and slider. All three of those pitches, Walsh has over a 250 ISO against. Really good numbers against his pitch mix. Obviously, he crushes righties, so I feel really good about Walsh tonight. I think he's going to be low owned, right, at 4,100. I think most people are going to play one of those Mets guys in cash or maybe drop down to like Santana if the Red Sox get some runs. So I feel really good about Walsh tonight. I'm probably going to just lock him in.
Yeah, I think Walsh is a really, really good play, and I would assume that Santana gets quite a bit of ownership just because he's so cheap and leading off for, I believe Boston has the highest team total on the entire slate. And then, obviously if they can get to it, the Mets guys kind of stick out. So I feel like you're right in saying that people are probably going to pay up or pay down, which just leaves Walsh right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, and you mentioned Otani. Really like him tonight as well. So I'll save him for outfield. Second base, I'll start here. I think in my early build, I was looking to spend down at this position because I was putting in Cole, and then I want to spend up for some guys at outfield. So I don't know. I do think there's some good expensive options, right? You have Altuve, you have Whit Merrifield, someone I like to play a lot, and then in the mid tier you have Johnny India leading off again for Cincinnati. I think he's fine, but if I think it's time to go back to my boy Odor against Dobnak. I don't like to target against Dobnak because he keeps the ball on the ground, but Odor's only 2,800. If he's in the Yankees lineup, I may need to play him tonight.
I'm not opposed to it. I think that is 100% fine. I also think Ozzy Albies is too cheap. Gene Segura at 39, I really like. If you guys can't tell, I do indeed like the Philadelphia Phillies tonight. And dude, Chris Taylor, I know he's 4,600, but he's hitting second now. And I feel like Chris Taylor is really, really sticking out as a very good play tonight.
Yeah, no problems with him. I mean, the Dodgers are right up there, right? We'll talk about it when we get to stacks, but I do think the Dodgers are up there in terms of the stack rankings tonight. But yeah, I agree with what you said. Albie's definitely too cheap for me on DraftKings. I think if I was picking one spend up guy, it would be him. I just think that the price is just too low on him, right? Like, I mean, he's cheaper than
Mm-hmm.
guys like Semien, even though I like Semien. I mean, Albie should be mid fives, I think, every slate. So.
Yeah, I
Really
pretty much
too cheap.
agree.
All right, we'll move to third base. Again, I have a really. I think there's a lot of good plays at third base, but I have someone I want to lock in for sure. So I'll let you go first, and then I'll see if you mention him. But I think top projection wise, it's probably Devers here, right?
Yeah, I think he's the best play. I absolutely love using him, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult to spend up on him tonight. I also think that Jonathan VR is 100% fine. Justin Turner, I really like, and he's 1,000 cheaper than Devers. Outside of that, there's some guys that I don't really have too many issues with. Alec Boehm, I'm 100% fine using him. If you want to go down to like someone like Yon Makata, I have no issues. He's 5K. I probably would prefer Justin Turner to Moncada, but I think they're both solid plays.
Yeah, I agree. I think Turner really good play at his price point against a lefty. But I don't disagree with anything you said. My favorite play, Eugenio Suarez, just above 4K on DraftKings. Another guy that's been hitting the ball well recently. Anderson, another guy that throws sinkers a lot. Suarez, another guy that crushes sinkers. I think that's just too cheap for him, right? 4,300
Mhm.
against a lefty. Obviously, good hitting environment there in Cincy. Um, so I'm probably going to play him. But you could talk me into a lot of guys at third. I think it's pretty stacked position today.
Yeah, I was going to say Suarez, but he kind of fell slightly below some of the other guys that I was talking about. I think he's 100% fine. I just wish that they moved him to like second or something instead of hitting sixth.
Yeah. Hopefully that keeps his ownership down though, since he's not up. Because he was leading off there, right? Like a week or so ago, a
Mm-hmm.
couple weeks ago, he was leading off. So hopefully that keeps his ownership low. Shortstop, I think most people will be playing Lindor here. He's under 5K against Harvey. I'm fine with it. Probably want to play him in cash games. I do like Xander Bogaerts in tournaments. We've talked about Odorizzi. not super good. He actually allows a pretty high ISO to righties, right? You can pick on him with right-handed batters. Bogart's really expensive, so I'm not sure what his ownership will be. I think most people will just drop to Lindor in cash games. Outside of those two, where are you looking? I think for cheap, JP Crawford's interesting to me. Mize does struggle a little bit with lefties, and Crawford's like surprisingly been pretty good the last couple weeks. He was really hot in that one series over the weekend, but what are you doing at shortstop tonight?
Yeah, there's legit like very little that I like tonight outside of Lindor Bogarts. I do think that JP Crawford's interesting, but if Casey Mize is my pitcher on this big of a slate, obviously I'm not going to use any bats against him. If you're not playing Mize, I do think that Crawford's solid. I think you can go with like Freddie Galvis at 38. He's hitting fourth. I don't have any issues there. Or if you want to play like Tim Anderson or Carlos Correa, I'm not really going to try to talk you off of either of them. I don't know. This just feels like a really, really weak position to me tonight.
Yeah, Galvis is a good call. I'm definitely interested in him batting cleanup. I think the Orioles are actually a pretty decent stack tonight for tournaments. Walker, I actually like Walker. I think he's decent, but he's still been extremely lucky this season, and I do feel like he has at least one start that's not great coming. Orioles have been good. They've been good against righties the last like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and overall just offensively, the last 2 weeks they've been really good. So they're getting hot. So I do like the Orioles a little bit. So Galvis I think is a good call. Finishing up at outfield, stack position per usual. So we'll break it down. We'll talk about spend ups here, and then we'll go mid tier and value. So in terms of spend ups, far and away number one play for me, maybe my number one play in the slate, Shohei Ohtani. I'm gonna lock him in. I'm hoping he's not high owned because he's 5,900 on DraftKings, but this guy one is just a monster. I have no words at this point. I don't know. Did you see the home run he had last night?
No, I didn't actually see it.
Dude,
I saw that he hit one. I just didn't
yeah,
see it.
go watch it after we get off here. It literally, I think it went 470 feet. I didn't think it was like, I didn't think it was gonna land, man. It was crazy. He's just a beast. I think he's up to first in baseball in barrels per plate appearance. And if you look at kind of what I was talking about, Keller's pitch mix, Walsh really good against it. Ohtani just as good. He's really good against sliders and against sinkers. Average distance against sinkers for Ohtani the last 2 seasons, 345 feet with a 500 ISO against sinkers. So really good matchup for him. My top overall spend up. Obviously, we have a ton of spend ups at outfield per usual, but Ohtani sticks out to me. I think Yelich at 5,300 is a good play. I'll leave it at those two. So where are you spending up at outfield today?
Yeah, just anyone above 5,000. I think they're both really good plays. And then I'll add Mookie Betts at exactly 5K and JD Martinez at 5-1. That just seems a little bit too cheap for him in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, you don't need us to break it down. Like, you can play these guys every slate. I do think it's funny Mitch Haniger's at the 5,700. Just like, just sandwiched in between, Judge and Yelich and Ohtani. But whatever. Just, mid-tier, there's some good mid-tier plays at outfield. I think Castellanos, another guy that hits sinkers pretty well, hits left-handed pitching in general really well. 4,500. What reason is he 4,500? Can you explain it to me? I know if you look at the game log, it's a bunch of 8, 7, 8. Like, he's not putting up like 25 DraftKings points games. But for a minute there, he had like a 20-something game hitting streak. He's obviously been hitting the ball really well. I don't understand why he's 4,500 against a pretty bad lefty.
Yeah, price tag's ridiculous, honestly. I feel like we get this with a bunch of guys, though. Like, why is Bryce Harper 47? You know what I mean? Cody Bellinger at 4.6. Like, I don't even care if they're on like the worst streak of their career. They're just players that are better than that price tag, and they really shouldn't be down there.
Yeah, completely agree. I like Cedric Mullins a little bit. I think the Astros guys might get kind of chalky. Tucker and Brantley both had the platoon advantage over Eovaldi. They're under 4K on DraftKings. Who do you like in the mid tier? Because I think Margot, who I mentioned when I was talking about pitcher, I think he's probably my favorite value. Again, he had a leadoff home run last night, but we know he hits lefties well. He hits them hard. He's going to lead off, and he's 2,900 or whatever he is on DraftKings. So I think he's the top value. But where are you going in the mid tier?
Yeah, I think the guys that we talked about are all really good plays. I think you can go with like Hunter Renfroe at 4-1. I have no problems there. Andrew McCutchen also 4-1. Giancarlo Stanton 4-4. I agree. Mullins is a good option. I think that's mainly the mid tier guys that I'm looking at. You can drop down a little bit lower, like Nomar Mazar is 23, hitting fifth against Flexen. AJ Pollock 31, hitting sixth. I think that they're really good plays. You obviously have Danny Santana leading off. You can use him in outfield or first base. So, there's a lot of really good options that you can consider here. Even like Justin Upton's 4K. I prefer him against lefties, but he's been playing well enough that you pretty much can just use him if you want to. So, as is the case with basically every slate, there's never a lack of options in the outfield.
Yeah, I agree. Santana, obviously, you mentioned him. You think that's valuable that you can play him at outfield or first base. And then another cheap guy that I just saw, he's hitting second for the White Sox. Obviously, a risk to get pinch hit, but our boy Jake Lamb did crack the lineup today. So you can consider him for value. But I think
I'm never against it.
I don't know. I'm probably going to spend I want Yelich and Ohtani personally in my lineup. I don't know what you're doing, but I really would like to get those two in if possible.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with either one of them. I think they're both really good. Yeah, no, I don't have any issues. As long as you can spend up for them, which I don't see why you wouldn't be able to playing Gomber. I feel like it wouldn't be really that difficult to get either.
Yeah, I think we covered the positions pretty well. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask. We'll talk about our favorite stacks here and then give some home run calls. I think stack-wise, I think, like I said, Mets will be pretty chalky. Red Sox, like you said, have the highest team total or one of the highest team totals at the moment. I think they'll be pretty, like they won't be a secret. I think the Mets are gonna just dominate the ownership though overall stack wise. So those are probably the top two. I like Dodgers per usual. I like the Angels. I mentioned. I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to only take the lefties, right? I think you can use Rendon. And some of the other, like Upton's been on fire. I think you can easily stack the Angels regardless of their handedness. And then the Orioles, I think, were the other one I mentioned. I like them a good bit.
Yeah, I like all of those teams. I don't have any issues. I think you can add Cincinnati, especially playing at home. I don't have any problems there. I think Philadelphia is a good stack as well. So a lot of different ways you can go tonight. And honestly, most of the teams that we like are relatively close to the top in terms of the run or their implied team totals. But I do think that you could go with someone like the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't have any problems with that. Even if you wanted to get weird and go with like the White Sox, no one's really going to play them tonight. But I do think that, there's always plenty of upside throughout their lineup.
Yeah, or even like the Braves. Like the Braves are like the perfect type of team that you want to play when they're low owned because they have so much power. So there's a good chance if they have a good game, they're hitting like 2, 3, 4 home runs. And whenever they're not owned, which I don't think they will be tonight, that's the type of spot that I look to get on them. Home run call. I mean, I have a ton that I would want to pick tonight. I'm just going to take Jared Walsh, though, so that's fine.
Walsh?
Yeah.
You pick the easiest guys.
Jared Walsh isn't that easy. I mean, yeah, has power. I don't think that's that easy, though.
Mr. Power himself. I'm going to go with Andrew McCutchen.
All right. I like that. Always can take him against lefty. I think that's a fine call. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. If you have any further questions, you can ask us in Discord. As usual, our Discord's free to get in, dfscomer.com. There's a banner at the top. You can get into the Discord for free. You won't get access to the premium channels, but you can still get in the regular channels for free. So head over and do that if you have any further questions. I'll be back on the stream Friday. Probably have a stream tomorrow. We'll see if someone is available to run it. But if not, I'll see you guys Friday. Good luck tonight.